We begin the Gemara today at the bottom of Daf Tzad Gimel Amud Beis, 8 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Amar Abaye said that Rab Shimon ben Yehuda, Ubei Shammai, V'Rab Eliezer ben Yaakov, V'Rab Shimon ben Elazar, V'Rab Yishmael, Kulu Svirulahu, all these Tanoim hold, Shinoi, when you have something that before we were speaking about a case where a person stole something, and there was a change in the object. So before we brought from our Mishnah that we see that if there's a shinoi, then the chayfetz itself, you're kaineh it, and then you just give back the money. That's in one case, one example. This halacha applies in different cases as well. So all of these Tanaim hold that shinoi b'mekayim, even if there was a shinoi, but nevertheless the chayfetz remains as is, meaning you still have to give back the chayfetz itself to the owner, not the money. And this, like I said, this is the example we spoke about before is regarding Gzela, but as we'll see, the sources for some of these Tanoim is regarding other cases, not only by Gzela. So the Gemara brings, where do we find this? Rab Shimon ben Yehuda ha da Amaran. Rab Shimon ben Yehuda is what was mentioned before. The Gemara brought before, Rab Shimon ben Yehuda said in the name of Rab Shimon regarding the din of Reishis Hagez, that when you shear the wool, you have to give to the kayin, that if it was shorn from the animal and then tzavay, it was dyed, once it was dyed, it can't be combined to other wool to make up for the shear that has to be given, because it's already a shinui. So we see that that's the Bava Kama there actually. But Rab Shimon ben Yehuda says in the name of Rab Shimon, even after you dyed it, it still is the wool that is mitztaref, and you still have to give it to the kayin. It doesn't, the fact that it was dyed doesn't change it. Bei Shammai, where do we see Bei Shammai holds the same idea? Ma'hi, what's the source? Tanya, we learned in a Braisa. Nosan lo chitim be'esneno. This is a halacha that's called esnan zayna. When a person gives a gift for a woman for an inappropriate relationship, that gift, if it's an animal, cannot be brought as a carbon, or any other item that's given as a gift cannot be brought as a carbon in any way. So now, what happens if the gift was, he gave her chitim, he gave her wheat be'esneno as a gift for this Aveda. And now it's flour. It was changed. Or Zaysim, he gave her olives, asan shemen, and now it's oil. Anovim, he gave her grapes, asan yayin, and now it's wine. So the question is, now that it changed into a new item, is the Aveda still there, and you're not allowed to bring this as a carbon, or not? So Tanicha, the one Braisa we learned also, that it's still also to bring it as a carbon. But another Braisa we learned mutter. No, it's changed. It's not what you gave. So now it's a new thing, and it's mutter. Rav Yosef said about these two Braisas, Tani Goryan de Aspork. Goryan from the place Aspork explained ththese two Braisas. The Bei Shammai Yisrim, the Braisa that says that it's still also is the opinion of Bei Shammai. And Beisila says that it's mutter. So we see here that they're basically arguing when it changes, does it still have the Isser on it, or no? B'mekayim that is, that it still has the Isser on it, or no? It's not b'mekayim, it doesn't have its Isser. We had the same Gemara before in the Perik Merubah. The Gemara is going to go through the same discussion now, the source for Bei Shammai and Beisila. So the Gemara, my time at the Bei Shammai, what's the source of Bei Shammai? Omakra, the Pasuk says, over there, by the Salach of Leisavi Esnan Zayna, in the end of the Pasuk there it says, Gam Shneyem. So Bei Shammai learns out, Gam Shneyem l'Rabbais Shinuyeyem, that even if you give this gift and there's a shinui, there's a change to the object that you gave, the Issa still applies. Beisil source that it does not apply, because Beisil Omakra Heim v'loy Shinuyeyem. The Shnei Hem, he darshans the Heim Mem from the Shnei Hem, that it's only as is and not if it's changed. Then the Issa doesn't apply. According to Bei Shammai, what are they darshan from the Heim, from Shnei Hem, the Beisil darshan? This is Gemara, they darshan that if the behemoth was given as a gift and then it gives birth, the vlad is not included in the Isser. A shinoi, it's still the same chayfetz, it's just that it was changed. But if it's a vlad, it's a new baby that was born, for that Isser doesn't apply. Or Beisil says, Tarti shamet mino. Beisil says this halacha, to exclude that it doesn't apply to the baby, you learn it out from the same Heim, both. Heim v'loy shinuyeyem, heim v'loy v'lo the same. The mashmos of the word heim is to say only them, only what you give is a gift and not something else that changes or a baby born. In fact, the Gemara now on the other hand, the Beisil nami yaksiv gam, what a Beisil darshan from the extra word of gam. So the Gemara doesn't answer. The Gemara says gam leBeisil kashya. The gam, according to Beisil, remains a question. What he darshans from this? Okay, so this is Bei Shammai. We see Bei Shammai holds even if there's a shinui, the Isser still remains. The third Tana here, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Mai. Where did we see Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds the same thing? Because the Tanya we learned in the Brais. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, a person stole a amount of wheat. Tochna, he ground it, or losha, or he kneaded it, va'afa, and then he baked it. And v'hifrish mimena chala. And then he separates chala from it. Keitzad mevarech, how does this person make a bracha on this? Ein zeh mevarech ele menayitz. This person, if he makes a bracha on the afroshas chala, that's some learn this Gemara, that it's referring to the bracha on the mitzvah, or others say that it refers to the bracha that you make a hamaitzi on it, to eat from it. So when you make this bracha, you're menayitz, you're really going against the Eibishter because it's stolen bread. And regarding this, the pasuk says, "Beitzeya beirach niyetz Hashem." Person that's beitzeya, which is a person that steals, and then he makes a bracha, it's really niyetz Hashem. It's going against Hashem. So over here, what do we see? He stole it, and then he baked it into bread. He stole chitim, and now he baked it into bread. If you would hold that the shini is kaineh, then it's just the money that he has to give back. The actual bread now is his. But here, the fact that he says that it's still a menayitz, it's a mitzvah bava veda, and it's a menayitz, so you see that even after he baked it into bread, it's still not his. And therefore, it's a menayitz. Shem ben Elazar Maihi, another Tanya of Shem ben Elazar also is the same thing. Where do we see this? The Tanya we learned in the Braisa, Klal Zeh Omer Rab Shem ben Elazar. Shem ben Elazar said the following rule: Kol shavach sheishbiach gazlan. Anytime a gazlan steals something and what he stole got improved, the value went up, Yodeh al Yaina. So then he has the upper hand. He only has to give back the way it was when he stole. Ratza neitel shivcha. If he wants, he can keep that shvach. Ratza aimeloi reishalach lefanecha. Now, if he wants, he can tell the nigzal, the owner, that here, take it as is. Now, so the Gemara here first explains the lashon that Rab Shimon ben Elazar is saying. My kalmar. What did Rab Shimon ben Elazar mean when he said that he can tell the owner harei shalach lefanecha? So Rashi explains what the Gemara is asking is usually this lashon of harei shalach lefanecha means when the value went down. And now what you're returning is not the same value of what you stole. And nevertheless, you can tell him, take it as is. But over here, though, he's talking with the value went up. So what's this lashon of harei shalach lefanecha, which sounds like he's not giving back the value that he stole. He's giving back actually even more. So the Gemara explains, Rav Sheshes explained that Take, he was saying two different things. This is what Rab Shimon ben Elazar is saying. Hishbicha neitel shivchai. If it was mashbiach, the item that he stole went up in value, it got better, more value, so then he keeps the shvach for himself, the gazlan. Kachash, if the value went down, if it got weaker, so he give him the animal as is. Why? The shinoi b'mekayimai aymed. Even though there was a shinoi in this animal, we're not going to say that now the animal is yours, you keep the animal, and you have to give him the money of the value that it was when you stole. No, the animal, even though there was a shini in it, whether there was a shvach, whether there was a kachash, it's worth more now, worth less, the body of the animal changed, but nevertheless, you give back the animal itself to the owner as is.
Shvach is called shini?
Yeah, the animal is different, it's fatter, it's bigger, or it's skinny, or whatever it is, the shvach or the kachash, yeah. Okay, that's the way Rav Sheshes explained what Rab Shimon ben Elazar was saying. So, fragt the Gemara, if so, second, we're over here. If so, biach nami. If so, the halacha should be by the shvach as well that he should just give back the animal the way it is. Why does it say noitel shivchai? If we're saying that the the animal as is still belongs to the owner, even though it's better, but whatever it is, you have to give it back. So why are we saying that no? If it's better, you can keep the shvach, and only what's besides the shvach, that's what you give back. So the Gemara says, Omri, they explained Rab Shimon ben Elazar's opinion, mipnei takanas hashavim. That's a takana for a person in order for him to do tshuva that he shouldn't have to give back the shvach. In other words, Ba'emes, he holds that the shini b'mekayim ha'imit. But this is a special takana for him to do tshuva that he shouldn't have to give back this extra shvach. He fed the animal and now it grew, it's fatter, that he doesn't have to give back. This is Rab Shimon ben Elazar. So you see that he holds that b'mekayim ha'imit, even after there's a shini. The final opinion here that was mentioned, Abai, this is all Abai is saying, that all these Tanoim hold that even after there's a shinoi, b'mekayim ha'imit, the animal is still owned by the owner, you have to give it back as is. So Rabbi Shmuel, here, where do we see Rabbi Shmuel held this concept? Tanya, we learned in the Braisa, mitzvahs peyeh lahafrish min hakama. The mitzvah of peyeh, you leave over in the corner of your property for the poor people. That's the mitzvah of peyeh. So you're supposed to separate the pay menakama from the wheat that's in the corner when it's still attached to the ground, when it's still standing. If you didn't separate it and designate it for the poor people when it's still attached to the ground, so you give it to them when it's after it's cut and there's wheat. If you did not give it to them when you have some bundles that are the bundles of wheat after it's cut, you already made a big pile, so you give from the pile of the kernels. So you give from that to the poor people. Okay, this is menakri. It goes together. You give from the pile before it was smoothed out. And then when you finish, you make a pile and it was already smoothed out. That's the last malacha that's done. That it should be chayiv and meiser. So then at this point, maaser v'noisenloi, because once it's smoothed out, now it's chayiv and meiser. So you can't give the payah before you give meiser, because the payah is usually potter from meiser. But over here, if you're going to give the payah before you separate meiser, so the poor people are not going to give any meiser. So once it's already miruach was done, it's smoothed out. First, you have to give the meiser, and then you can give the payah for the poor people.
And if you leave, they give meiser?
Usually by payah, there's no meiser. Usually by payah, there's no meiser. The poor people that get it, there's no meiser. No, but over here though, because usually they get the payah before the miruach, before it was made smooth in a pile. But over here, once there was miruach, it was smooth pile, so then you have to first give the meiser. Yeah. Mishum Rabbi Shmuel goes a step further. Af mafresh mina isa, that is v'noisen loy. Even if you already took it and you made a dough out of it, so it's a shinui, it's a whole new thing. But still, the mitzvah of pay still applies. You have to give it to the poor person. The Tana Kama disagrees with this. He says, no, the pay is only when it's still out in the field. But not when there's a shinim like this, that it's already a dough, there's no mitzvah of pay anymore. So here you see Rabbi Shmuel holds, even though there's such a shinui, the original mitzvah of pay still applies. This is all these Tanoim. That's what Abaye said. Oh, that Abaye. So Papa asks Abaye about this. Could it be all these Tanaim are all repeating the same point, and they're all coming to say like the Shitta of Beishamai, not like Beisilil? How could it be they're all paskening like Beishamai and not like Beisilil? Amalei. So Abai explained what he meant to say. This is what I meant to say. All these Tanaim are coming to say that Beishamai and Beisilil don't argue about this. Beisilil agrees that Shinna b'Mekayim. But Rava now comes and argues on Abaye. Rava says, Mimai, how do you know that all these Tanoim hold this halacha of Shinui b'Mekayim ha'omed? Dilma can tell you, and he's going to go through here, all these Tanoim, in each case, the Shinui that they're talking about is not a full Shinui. So he starts off with the first case. Dilma, at can come Rab Shimon ben Yehuda Hasam. When Rab Shimon ben Yehuda said his halacha of a Shinui that was talking about the wool that was shorn from the animal, that if you dyed it, so then you can't combine it anymore to the mitzvah of Reishis Agez. So when Rab Shimon Yehuda said that halacha there, Ela B'tzeva, when it was dyed. So over there, that's not a real Shinui. Why? Because the color could be removed through soap, could be washed, and it can return back to its original condition. So it's like we had before on Daf Tzaddik Gimel, a Shinui Achayz L'Briyaseh. It's not a real Shinui. That's Rab Shimon Elazar. Similar, when Beishamai said in the case by the esnena, the gift for Zaina, that it can't be brought as a carbon, and he said, including when there was a change in it, it still can't be brought as a carbon. That's maybe only there. Ella legavoya mishum de imis. Over there, when you're talking about bringing a carbon, because this was used for an aveda, so there's a mius, it's repulsive, and therefore, even if there's a shinoi, it doesn't take away the mius that there is in it, and it can't be brought as a carbon. But not necessarily could you apply this by Gzela or by other cases. And that kind of comedy, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov also, when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said, when you get a person that stole, and then he wants to make a bracha of a frashas challah or the bracha of a maitzi, so he said he's called a menayetz, even after he changed it, and now it's a dough. So why did he say that they're elulin bracha? Over there, by a bracha, he's called a menayetz, mitzvah, baba veda. Over there, even though Taki had changed, but still, it came through an Aveda. So it still is called a mitzvah Baba Aveda, and therefore he's called a Menayetz. And Rab Shimon ben Elazar said that when a person steals, and then he said that if the animal became a better quality, or the bad animal kachash went down in quality, and it still has the same halacha, you give back the animal as is. So when Rab Shimon Elazar said that, what he was talking about is when the animal wasn't fed properly, for example, and the animal lost weight and it went down in value. So this is a kind of a loss of a value, a change in the body of the animal that could return back to the way it was before. It's a kasha dehada, so it's not a real shinui, a permanent shinui. And the final thing that we brought from Rabbi Shmuel, that he holds by payah, that even if you didn't give the payah, even after you made already a dough out of it, you still have to separate the payah. So he only said that by payah mishum dechsiv tazev yiseda. There, the pasuk writes extra time the word tazev after it already says over there the mitzvah. It says again la'anu lager tazev v'isam. So therefore that's an extra drasha to say that you have to give it even after there's a shinui, but you not necessarily do you apply that to other cases. So Gemara now asks on this last thing over here, if by payah you find the Torah writes an extra tazev that you have to give it even after there's a shinui, so v'chitema ligmar minei. Maybe we should learn out from there and compare other cases to this. Says the Gemara, no, we don't learn out from here. Matnoi saniyim shani. That this halacha of the gifts that you give for poor people is different. It's a chiddush that the Torah says here that you still have to give it even after it becomes a dough. And we find this kedaboy of Nasan, Rabbi Yenison, that is, as Rabbi Yenison asked, the boy Rabbi Yenison asked the Shaila, my time with Rabbi Shmuel. What's the reason that Rabbi Shmuel said you still have to give the payah even after it's a dough? Mishum de kesava shini kaina is the reason because he holds b'chlal not only by payah but always even after there's a shinu you don't acquire it and therefore the original mitzvah of payah still applies. Or maybe ba'al de kesava shini kaina. Rabbi Shmuel usually holds by exela, by other cases, shini is going to be kaina. Here there's an extra pasuk tazev, it's a unique thing, dafka by matnas aniyim, that the Torah says that you have to still give this gift for the poor people. Okay, so therefore, Rabbi disagrees with Abaya. In all of these cases, there's a certain reason why it's an exception, why the shinui is not kaina. But otherwise, you could still say that shinui is kaina. Now the Gemara continues the discussion over here, b'nigeya, to this mitzvah of payah. If you're going to say, time the Rabbi Shmuel mishum de kesava shinui ena kaina, like the way Abaye understood it, that Rabbi Shmuel was coming to say, just like by payah, the same like everywhere else, shinui is never kaina, and that's why Rabbi Shmuel holds if it's a dough, you still have to give the payah. So according to this interpretation, taziv you say the kosav rachmana lamali. How would we understand the extra taziv that the Torah writes by payah? V'su l'Rabbanon, taziv you say it, the kosav rachmana lamali. According to the Rabbanon, they definitely held that once there's a change, it's dough, you don't give payah anymore. So according to them, what do you learn out from the extra word taziv? And says the Gemara, you learn out from this, like it says in the Braisa. Hamafke karmai, person that declared his vineyard to be hefker, and then the hishkim labaiker, in the morning he wakes up, and ubatzra, he goes and he's zeichen it again for himself. He reacquires it for himself, ubatzra, and he's cutting the grapes from his vineyard. Chayiv beperet or be'oilulis or b'shikcha bepeya. He's going to be chayiv to give peret and oilulis. These are different grapes that grow and not in their normal way. They grow less, so they grow like straight, not in the normal way, the way the grapes grow. You have to give them for the poor people. And the shikcha, it's forgotten, and in the corner the peya. You still chayiv in all of these halachas of matnas aniyim. And upatim and amaiser, but from maiser is going to be pater. Because the halacha of Meiser is when you zeiche in something from Hefker, there's no din of Meiser. So this person, he was the original owner. But once he was mafkir it, comes back the next day and he's zeiche in it, he's now zeiche in a Hefker. So Meiser you're not going to be chayiv in. So the same thing should be regarding all the other matnas aniyim. Once you were mafkir it, you zeiche in a Hefker, you shouldn't be chayiv. But nevertheless, we learn out from tazev regarding payah. There's an extra word tazev that you're still going to be a chayiv payah, even though you were mafkir before. And Rashi brings there, we also have by all the other ones, by peret, by oilulis, and by shikcha. There's similar to the drasha of tazev. There's an extra pasuk to say that you're chayiv to give, even though you were zeichanam and a hefker. Amar Rav Yudah Mashmuel. Rav Yudah said in the name of Shmuel, halacha ke Rav Shimon ben Elazar. We pass on what like what Rav Shimon ben Elazar said before. That when you stole an animal and it went up in value or it went down, the Gemara is actually going to focus on the halacha of when it went down in value. Let's say you didn't feed it and it went down in value. So still, you give back to the owner the animal as is. The shinu doesn't make any difference. You give it back as is. So the Gemara asks on this, is it true that Shmuel say that the halach is like Rav Shimon ben Elazar, that the shinu you're not going to be kind of through the shinu and you give back the animal itself as is? But Va'ama Shmuel said the following halacha. This was, I think, we had this earlier, a long time ago here in the Masechta. Ein shamin, you don't have to evaluate loy leganav or loy legazlan. By a ganav and a gazlan, you don't evaluate the behemoth that he stole, and if it went down in value, you don't evaluate it at all. Elul and nizakin. By nizakin, you evaluate. This halacha that Shmuel is saying is by a hezik, if you were mazik someone's animal, let's say now it killed another animal, and now it's a nevela. So you have to first evaluate what's the value of the nevela, and then you pay the rest. You don't say, the animal that's a nevela, so we don't count that in. You have to pay the whole, give a whole new animal. No, you count the value of the nevela, and then the rest you have to pay. That's by nizakin. But by ganav and gazlan, Shmuel says you don't evaluate anything, because you're not going to say by ganav and gazlan that you have to look and see what value went down, and then afterwards you're going to have to pay the rest. No, you have to give money, because once the value went down, you're kind of this already. Shmuel is basically saying that once it changes a shinu, you're kained, and then you have to give a whole new animal, or you have to give the money of the animal the way it was when you stole it. But so we see here that Shmuel doesn't hold like what Rab Shimon ben Elazar says, that if the value of the animal goes down, so you give back this animal itself. How could he say that? How could Shmuel before say that you give back this animal itself? Answers the Gemara, or the Gemara actually continues and explains that this is actually only a question according to the way Abaye understood what Rab Shimon ben Elazar said. Why? According to what we explained before, that Rava said, the Amar Rava said, Kika Amar Rab Shimon ben Elazar Asam. When did Rab Shimon ben Elazar say this halacha that if the value of the animal goes down, so you're still giving back this animal itself? By kosher the hodar. This is when the animal went down in value. Let's say it wasn't fed properly, but it could eat again, and it could return back to its original condition. So that's the only time that Rab Shimon ben Elazar said that there's no real shina here. So therefore, you're giving back this animal itself. So and in that case, Shmuel would agree. So then like kashya. So then it's not a question. Because this that was quoted in the name of Shmuel, that he said that halacha is like Shimon ben Elazar, that even though there's a shinoi, but nevertheless the animal is still going back to the owner as is. Like chasher the hodder, that's the animal when it wasn't fed well, for example, and it can go back to the condition the way it was before. And when Shmuel said the halacha that you don't evaluate by a ganav and a gazla when the value goes down, why? Because once it's not the same animal, so now you're kind of the animal. You're not giving back this animal, b'chlal. You're paying back money. Elul and nizakin, only by nizakin do you have to evaluate the nevela, and then you have to see how much you have to pay besides that. That's bakchasha de loyodar. That's if the value went down in such a way that it's not going back to its condition the way it was before, then you're kained. So then it's not a stira in the opinion of Shmuel. But as you said before, what did Abaye say? Abaye said, Rab Shimon ben Elazar holds, even if it's a shinoi, the value of the animal went down and it's not going back to its previous condition. Nevertheless, you're giving back this animal itself to the owner. So what are we going to say over here to the contradiction of Shmuel's opinion? So the Gemara answers, Abaye masni hachi. Abaye actually learned that Shmuel, it was never said in the name of Shmuel that we paskin like Rab Shimon ben Elazar. Rather, what he learned is as follows. Amr Rav Yehuda Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Amru halacha Rab Shimon ben Elazar. The Chachamim said that the halacha is like Rab Shimon ben Elazar, but v'leilei svirelei. He himself doesn't hold it the halacha is like Rab Shimon ben Elazar. He holds it if there's a kachash delay hadar, if there's a shini in the animal, so then you're kainit. And you're not paying b'chlal with this animal. You're paying money. So therefore there's no reason to evaluate by a ganav and a gazlan. Only by nizakin you evaluate. Amar Rab Chiya bar Abba, Amar Rab Yochanan. Devar Teire, minat Teire, the halacha is gzeila hanishtanis, that if you stole an object and there's a shini in it, so chizeres beina, you give it back as is, whatever it may be. Rabbi Yochanan says, minat Teire, the shini is not kaina. You give it back as is. Why? Shenema v'heisha v'sagzela asher gazal. Torah says you should give back the gzela. So he darshans when the Torah says asher gazal, that means makom makom. You're giving back the gzela. The extra words of asher gazal is saying that you give it back as is. I mean, we had before the Gemara darshan that we learned from asher gazal. Asher brings it. We had earlier in the Masechta asher gazal says ke'en shegazal, and if it's not ken shegazal, you don't give it back. But Rabbi Yochanan darshans no. Asher gazal means whatever condition it is, the animal itself you give back. And you're not kind of through a shinui. You'll ask, what's the pshat in the Mishnah? The whole first Mishnah here is saying the halacha of Hagaizel, Eitzim, V'asan Kalim, and all the other cases where the Mishnah says that it was a shinoi, and the Mishnah says you don't give back the Eitzim itself. The Mishnah says that you pay back money, Kishas Hagzela, not the Eitzim itself. So how we explain the Mishnah? So the Gemara says, according to Rabbi Yechanan, Mishum Takonas Hashavim. That's a Takonim of the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan didn't want the person to have to give back something that's already a shinui. He built it into a keli, he built it into... So that's a Takonim of the Rabbanan to make it easier for him to do tshuva. But Minat Torah, really, there's no such a thing as a kinyan through a shinui. Frag the Gemara, Mi Amar Rabbi Yechanan Achi. Could we say that Rabbi Yechanan holds that Minat Torah, there's no kinyan through a shinui? It's only a Takonim of the Rabbanan. But Vaha Amar Rabbi Yechanan, halacha kistam mishnah. Rabbi Yechanan always holds that we paskin like a stam mishnah. Utnan, and there's a stam mishnah which we had right before over here in Daf Tzaddik Gimel. And this is again regarding the halacha of reishus hagez. You have to give from the wool that you share from the animal to the kohen. And the mishnah there says, "Loy hispik litnei loy." You didn't get a chance to give the wool to the kohen achet savoi until you dyed it. Potter. You potter from giving it to the kohen because now it's a shini. It's not anymore this wool that you was shorn from the animal. So you see over here, this is halacha b'negei to reishus hagez, and the shinui. There's no union of shavim over here. There's no union of tshuva. It's not a gazlan, and it says that if it was dyed, you potter to give it. So it must be that this is a ptur min hatayra. This shini is kaina. Amalahu. So he answered them, Hahu midrabanan. Hahu midrabanan. That halacha over there is midrabanan. Second. Ahu midrabanan. That halacha over there is also only midrabanan. Yeah, it's sorry. No, okay, this is how you read it. Okay. Amalahu ahu midrabanan. V'Rab Yaakov shmei. So one of the Rabbanon answered and explained. And who is this Rabbanon that said this? Rab Yaakov shmei. Rab Yaakov is the one that explained this. Ledidi mifarshili minei Rab Yechanan. It was explained to me in the name of Rab Yechanan. Kagoin shagazal eitzim mishufin v'asan kalim. Over there, in our Mishnah, when it says in our Mishnah that it's only a takonim ed rabbanon, that the shinui is not going to we need the takon of the rabbanon to say that the shinui is kaina. That's a kind of a shinui that's chayz libriyase, that goes back to the way it was before. Kagoin shagazal eitzim mishupim v'asan kalim. If he stole eitzim that are already sanded down and they're already smooth eitzim, and he turned it into kalim. This is a shini achayz libriyasai. That's the case where Rabbi Yechanan said that only midrabanan is there a special takana for the shavim to do tshuva, that they don't have to give back the thing itself. And that's what Rabbi Yechanan was speaking about when Rabbi Yechanan said that min atayra a shini is not kaina. And according to him, that's what our Mishnah is speaking about as well. Hagayzel eitzim is talking about a case where the wood that he stole are already sanded down and you made it a keli. It's a shini achayzel b'riyasai. Over there, only with the rabbanon is the shini going to be kaina. But in a case where it's a shinoi, a real shinoi, which is not chayzel b'riyasai, even Rabbi Yechanan agrees that minatayra, a real shinoi, is actually kaina. And that's like we see over there, by the Mishnah of Reishus Hagez, that if you dye it and it's dyed knife and that it doesn't go back to the way it was before. Over there, Rabbi Yechanan is made. That's a stam Mishnah. Rabbi Yechanan says a stam Mishnah, even minatayra, it's going to be a shinui. Tana Rabbanan, and Abraisa we learned.
He doesn't hold that the guy could wash it with soap.
Yes, we learned before on Daf Tzaddik Gimel. The Gemara says there's different kinds of dyeing. There's dyeing where you could wash it. There's dyeing where you can't. Over here we're talking about when you dyed it and it's a permanent shinui. That kind of shinui is minatayra. You kind of minatayra. Tana Rabbanan and Abraisa we learned hagazlonin umalve beribis. People that are gazlonin and people that lend money with interest. Shechzira, and they're coming to return what he stole or what the interest that he took. We don't take back the money that they're trying to give to return to do tshuva. And someone that does take it from them, the chachamim are not happy about this. Ashi says, means there's no ruach of chachma and chassidus in this person that takes back this money. And the Gemara here brings the source of this, a story that happened. And it's when the times of Rabbi that this halacha was learned, that they made this takana that you should not take back from a person that is stealing or a person that took interest. Tanya, we learned in Abraisa, there was a story with an individual that wanted to do tshuva. So his wife said to him, Reka, I think this is going on this person, Reika, you're an empty person. If you're going to try to do tshuva now, even the gartel you're wearing is not yours either. Everything you had, you're going to have to give back. So how can you do tshuva? Now you're going to give everything you own back. So because of this, he held himself back. He didn't do tshuva. So it was at that time that it was said, Hagazlonin, Umalve Ribis, people that steal and people that take interest. Shechziru, when they come to return to do tshuva, ein mekabel mem. We don't take it back. V'amekabel mem, ein ruach chachamim neichei mena. And if you do take it back from them, chachamim are not happy about this. There's a big discussion in Rishonim about this takana. There's a few opinions in Rishonim about this. What does this mean? That ein ruach chachamim neichei mena? We see all the time in Shas it's discussing about gzeila and about the chiyuv to give it back, and that Bezdin forces you to pay back. What are we talking about here? All of a sudden, a takana that you don't take back. So many Rishonim say that if the person is coming and offering himself to pay back, then they will misaken that you shouldn't take it back. But if he's not offering to pay back and you're schlepping him to Adin Teira, so then for sure you force him to pay it back. Other Rishonim say, the Rabbeinu Tam over here says, that this is only talking about people that are gazlonim, malve beribis. This is something that is not a one-time zayla. This is what he does for a business. He's a gazlan as his business, or he's a malve beribis. This is what he does always. He lends on interest. Then you say, because this is a person that fell into such a situation with such a regilos, that you shouldn't take it back from him. But stam a person that stole one time, then you do take the payment. It's another opinion.
What about the Haitians like Zayla?
He has to give it back. But you don't have to take it. The Gemara is going to say, we'll see. You don't have to take it. That's the takana is not to take it.
Malva ribis is a problem. What are you giving back? The ribis?
Yeah, it's not it. It's also gzela. Since you're not allowed to take ribis, it's also gzela.
But he can't take ribis either. How can Nigzel take ribis?
Why not? 1 second. There's a third opinion in the Rishonim about this.
Whatever you guys call.
There's a third opinion in the Rishonim actually that says that this whole takana that the Gemara here brings was only in the times of Rebbe. But it was in that kufa that they made a takana, but it wasn't ledaitis. Later on, the takana was nisbatel. Because you see in Shas all the time that we're machayev a gazlan and a malva beribis to pay back the money. Those are the opinions in the Rishonim about this. It's an interesting takana here. But the Gemara is going to ask from different braises about this takana. Meisvei, so one question was asked. What? Maybe. So Meisvei, we learned in the Braise. A case where you have Yershim, their father left them over money, but this is money that came from interest that he took from people. Even though they know that this is ribis that they got from the father, they don't have to give it back. The Yershim, they don't have a chiyuv to give it back. Now, this is why Taka the Yershim don't have to give back ribis. This is something that will be explained later in the Masechta. We'll see why I don't have to give it back. But now, the Gemara here is being medayik. Inu hu deloy. They don't have to give back this ribis. Havim chayv lachse. But the father, it's mashma. If he himself, he took the ribis, he has to give back this ribis. So that's a question on what we're saying. That Rebbe, in times of Rebbe, they were masake and that you shouldn't give it back. So the Gemara says, "Bedinu davim namen chayv lachse." Really, the father also doesn't have to give back this ribis. Why is this Braisa here saying this halacha regarding the Yarshim that they don't give it back? Bishom, the Kabbalah, the Misni Seifa, it's because of what it wants to say afterwards there. Hiniach lem avia and para or talis, if the father left them a cow or any garment or talis, the whole davar masuyim, something very specific that everybody knows that this came from Gzela. It says something that everybody knows about this. So then chayavin lahachser. Then they should give it back, and the reason is mipnei kavod aviyim. This is only, even though minadin they shouldn't be mechoyev to give it back, but it's not honorable for the father that everybody is going to go around and saying and speaking about the father after he passed away. Oh, look, he was a ganev, and this is this item that he stole from me. This is this item that he stole from me. So because in the Sefer it wants to say this halacha about kibudav, taner reishanam bibididhu. So therefore, in the Reisha, it also says the halacha about the ribis regarding the Yershim that they don't give back the ribis. But really, the father also doesn't have to give back the ribis. The Gemara asks in this, and what does it come out of here? This Brais is saying halacha that for kibudav, after a person passes away, the children have to give back, so people shouldn't say not nice things about this person that he stole from them. But why do you have to be mechaber the father over here in this case? Ikri kan, shouldn't you apply over here what the pasuk says? V'nasi ba'amcha loisar. a nasi, a leader amongst you and you're amongst your people, you should not curse him. So what does the word ba'amcha coming to tell you? Only someone that's someone that's behaving the way he's supposed to, like a yid, properly. So, but otherwise, you're allowed to curse him. So over here, the same should apply regarding kibbutav. The kibbutav should only apply for a father that was mekayim mitzvahs. But this person that stole, why should the child have a chiyuv of kibbutav that the father now should not be embarrassed by people that his items are stolen here? And for the Gemara, Kedamer Rav Pinchas, like Rav Pinchas said regarding another question, B'sha'asa tshuva, that the father did tshuva. Hanami here, the case is B'sha'asa tshuva. The father, before he passed away, did tshuva. So he's not a rasha, so therefore there is a mitzvah of kibbutav that applies over here. In fact, the Gemara, Yasa tshuva, my boy gabe. If the father did tshuva, so why didn't the father give back the ribis or the whatever he stole? And for the Gemara, one second. This is part of the question over here. The father himself should have given it back. And for the Gemara, he didn't get a chance to give it back. Before he passed away, he did shuvah, he stopped his behavior, and he was planning on giving back what he stole and what he took his ribbis, but he got a chance to give it back. Until he passed away. Okay, the Gemara goes back to the original halacha over here. Again, the takana in the time of Rebbe, that you don't accept a payment from malve beribis or gazlonim. Toshema, so we learned it says, agazlonin, malve beribis, ava pisha govu, even though they collected, machzirin, they return. Now the Gemara explains first a simple pshat of this braise. Gazlonin, when it says they were speaking about people that steal, what does this mean they collected? It doesn't make sense to use this term that they collected. Gazel, if they stole, they stole. If they didn't steal, they didn't steal. What does it mean collected? It's not shaykh to use the lashon of collected regarding gzela. Elo, says the Gemara, you have to read the brayse as follows. It's one case. It's not talking about gazlonin and malve beribis. It's all one case. Ha gazlonin, people that steal. Umay niu malve ribius, they steal by taking interest. Ava bishagavu, even after they collected already the interest, machzirin, they should pay it back. So you see here clearly that the people that take interest, they do have to give back the interest. Saka, you say that there's a takana that we don't accept the payment from them. Amri, so they said to answer this, machzirin, the ones that take interest, they have to offer, they have to go and give it back. But we don't accept the payment from them. So it says Gemara, machzirin. So why do they even have to offer, come to give it back? Lots of they shamayim to be yotzi, they shamayim. They on their part, they have the chiyuv to go and give it back. So, but we don't accept it, so that the person that takes ribbis should know that it won't be accepted, and then it'll be easier for him to do tshuva.
They made takana for Kans and Shavim.
Yeah.
These guys?
No, this is the takana here. This is the takana that you don't accept from him the payment. This is the takana Sashavim in the times of Rebbe. Yeah. Toshema, we learned in the Braise, Harayim, the people that are shepherds. And these are shepherds that take their animals into private properties, so they're ganovim. Va'agaboyin, and the people that collect taxes. This is the head tax or different kinds of taxes, and they collect extra. And they're also gazlonim. V'hamoichsin. Moichsin is also certain tax collectors that collect not a set amount, but they collect and they can decide what they want to collect, and they steal. Tshuvasan kosher, for them to do tshuva is very difficult. Umachzirin l'makirin, and whoever if they want to do tshuva, they have to then go and give back what they stole from the people that they know that they stole from. So, but if they may not even know who they stole from to give back. That's why it's hard for them to do tshuva. So it says here in this braise that they have to give back to the ones that they stole from. So again, the Gemara says the same point. Amri, they explain, machzirin, they have to offer and give back, but they them, as we said before, but we don't accept this payment from them. Ve'ela lama machzirin. So if we don't accept, why are they coming to give back? Lots of sidei shemayim. They have to do their part that they have, their chiyuv to give back. Frek the Gemara, so why is this Braise saying that the tshuva is difficult for them? If they know that it's not going to be accepted, so then why is the tshuva difficult? If they don't know who to give back to, but anyways, whoever you want to give it back to is not supposed to accept it anyways, so then their tshuva can be complete even without giving it back. Another question over here is Eim Seifa. What does it say in the Seifa of that Braise? And then the money that they took from people that they don't know who it is to give it back to, what should they do with this money? They shouldn't keep it for themselves. They should designate it for things that the public needs. What is this? They should dig wells or caves where water is kept in it and things that could be used for the public. So what do you see over here? That they do have to give back, and even if they don't find it to give it back, they have to designate a place for the rabbim, something that should be used. So we're saying that we're not even makabel from them. Says the Gemara, we're going to have to say it's not a question. Kan kaidim takana. This brayse here is talking about before this takana was made. Kan lacha takana. Then the brayse we've quoted before, the story that happened, that was after that story. Then they made this takana that you shouldn't accept the payment from the gazlanim. Okay, let's finish off this union over here till the two dots in the next page. The Gemara says, "V'hashte the Omar Rav Nachman," but now Rav Nachman said, "V'she'ein gzeila kayemes," that when the gzeila itself that you stole is not here anymore, that's when we say that you don't have to give it back. So then I feel the time I could say both of these brises after the takana. But it's not a contradiction. Kam b'gzeila kayemes. If the actual item that you stole is still here, over here, that takana of the time of Rebbe did not apply, that they made a takana that you don't have to give it back. The actual object itself, you do have to give back. Like Rav Nachman said, only if what you stole is not here, to make this person take money out of his pocket to give it back, that's very difficult for him to make him take money out of his pocket. But if you look before at that Braise, where it says the story about this person that wanted to do tshuva, what held him back from doing tshuva there? So it's because his wife told him that if you're going to want to do tshuva, you have to give everything back. Even the gartel that you're wearing is stolen. You have to do tshuva. In that story, the gartel was, it sounds like we're talking about the actual gartel itself that he stole. And still, the Gemara is saying that because of that story, they made a takana that you don't have to give it back. It's mashma that it's the actual gartel itself, which is the object that you stole, that you still don't accept from a gazlan. And for the Gemara, my avnet, demei avnet. Over there in that story, she was telling him, everything you bought is with money of gzeila, including the gartel you're wearing. You bought it with money from gzeila, but the gartel wasn't the actual object of the gzeila. V'chol heiche, fragt the Gemara, v'chol heiche the gzeila kayemes le'avad rabbanan tekante. Is this distinction that Rav Nachman said true? That in a time when the actual gzeila is not here as is, that you stole, so over there's no takan of the rabbanan. Like the Gemara, but then there's the halacha of a beam. The gzeila kayamesi, a beam that a person stole. And what did he do with this beam? V'tanam, we learned in the Mishnah a takana for a gazlan regarding a beam. Ala marish hagazol shabone bibire. If a person stole a beam and he built it into his house, sheitol damov, that he only pays the money of this beam to the nigzal, to the owner, mipnei takana sashavim, for the takana of the people in order to do tshuva. Now this takana here, this is called takanas marish. This is not the same takana of Rebbe in the times of Rebbe that we spoke about before. The takana of Rebbe is a takana that you don't take back any payment from a gazlan at all. Over here, this is a different kind of takana. This takana was made before the times of Rebbe, and this is a takana that when you build it into a building, you don't want them to have to take apart the whole building in order to give it back. So they made a takana that you should give money instead of the beam itself. But the point is still, the Gemara is asking from there that you see that in a case where the gzeila is still here, Chachamim made a takana for the sake of the gazlan, and to make it easier for him to do tshuva, that he doesn't have to give back the beam itself, you give back only the money. So therefore the Gemara is asking, the l'chayr over here, it should be the same thing. How could Rav Nachman say that if the actual item is still here, that they didn't make a takana not to accept it from the gazlan? And says the Gemara, it's not the same thing. Shani Hasam over there, it's different. The true, the beam is still here, but the Kivin they kept say that the bire shavir rabbanik delesa. The beam is here, but he built it into a building. He built it into his house. So it's as if it's not here anymore. Over here, the Chacham said, it's takana that he doesn't have to give it back, only the money.